Ladies and gentlemen, we've got him. Steve Bannon is gone, is done. Down goes Steve Bannon. Down goes Steve Bannon. All right. Now, earlier today, the New York Times reported that President Trump had told senior aides that he has decided to remove Bannon as White House chief strategist. Now, that's according to two White House officials that were speaking to the New York Times. Now, the president and senior White House officials actually had been debating for a while when and how to dismiss Mr. Bannon. So the two administration officials cautioned that Mr. Trump is known to be averse to confrontation within his inner circle and could decide to keep Mr. Bannon on for some time, even though he is on his way out. So now that's very interesting. Now, let me give you a little bit of a timeline. Apparently, talks have started earlier in the month, actually. The New York Times writes that a person close to Mr. Bannon insisted that the parting of the ways was Bannon's idea. Well, we'll see how that turns out. Again, that's just somebody close to Bannon. Oh, no, he wasn't fired. He quit. Okay. Apparently, it submitted his resignation and on August 7th to be announced at the start of this week. However, he says that, well, look, we were going to announce it at the beginning of the week, and then Charlottesville happened. And then everything went crazy. Now, as of Friday morning, the two men were still discussing Mr. Bannon's future. And again, that was before the violence in Charlottesville by the white supremacists. And so that, of course, delayed the decision, I guess, if these people are to be believed. Very interesting. Now, look, this whole thing is sort of, it's surprising, but it's not. And let me explain. Now, yesterday I did a segment where administration officials, a couple of them had said that Mr. Trump was scared of firing Bannon because of the backlash that he would get from Breitbart, conservative media, and the alt-right. Again, Breitbart is the voice of the alt-right. Okay? And so I thought that there was definitely merit to that. But at the same time, Bannon, he's been on the outs, and we've talked about that. So we'll have to see how that works out. He might be able to avoid some of that backlash, although that's very unlikely, as I had just seen some stories before going on air that someone at Breitbart had just tweeted simply the hashtag war. Not good. Not good. So let's look at what problems Bannon was having inside the White House to kind of explain why I think that he would either have left or have been kicked out. Now, he was, of course, feuding with Jared Kushner, Gary Cohn, John Kelly, H.R. McMaster, and there were many others. Many, many others. Basically, he was pretty much alone. He was even on the outs with Trump. Okay? And it's not because they disagree. No, Charlottesville actually showed that they do agree on their ideology. But there were some things in which Bannon was doing that did not impress Trump, that Trump did not like very much. Now, again, Charlottesville proved that Trump and Bannon, they're on the same wavelength. However, the problems here between them were, well, okay. So let's talk about the interview, right, that happened yesterday. We talked about that yesterday on the show. Basically, he undermined Trump on North Korea and said, it's stupid. No, we're not going to attack North Korea until we can figure out a way where millions of people don't die within the first 30 seconds of conventional weapons. They've got us. We're stuck. We can't really do anything. That completely undermines Donald Trump's bellicose rhetoric about fire and fury. Then, of course, he talked about how he was going to replace people. That's not his job. Basically acting like the boss and showing everybody, hey, no, Trump's not the one in charge. I'm the one in charge. I'm the one who really runs this place. Now, that's something that Donald Trump could not stand. In earlier Politico articles, or articles in Politico, I guess I should phrase it that way, Trump was pissed off that Bannon was being called the guy who really ran the White House. So, that's something, of course, Donald Trump could not handle, no, I'm the one who's in control. I make all the decisions, not Bannon. Bannon's not making any decisions. What are you talking about? I don't like you, Bannon. Go in the corner. And that's where he was. He was basically in an exile. Nobody liked him. He was the most unpopular person inside the White House. And so, But look, on that interview, I didn't think about it this way, but it turns out it is kind of strange for Bannon to call up a progressive outlet and start talking shit about not only the people he worked with, but also Trump's policies. Very interesting on that. You don't do that unless you want out. Like, there's one thing that Trump cannot stand is when somebody is not loyal to him, when somebody undermines him. And that's exactly what this was. I mean, he said, I'm going to oust a female diplomat in the State Department. And that there are people in the White House, officials, that were wetting themselves over the consequences of a trade war with China. Okay. Look, I think that, and the more I think about it, the more I come to the thought process that Bannon had tried to embarrass Trump on purpose. Look, and you know, Bannon, he ran Breitbart. He's a pretty media savvy guy, right? He had to have known that this was going to be on the record, or else he would have said, "Hey, man, this is off the record," and then they would have wrote it as since the guy that he talked to was a journalist, he would have said, "Okay, a source within the White House says this." No, he's just like, I want them to know it's me. It's me. It's Bannon. I'm saying all this shit. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? This was going to happen. Undermine Trump. It doesn't matter what you believe or what you agree on. You undermine him, the baby is going to fire you. Again, you don't cold call a progressive outlet and start trashing the president and your own base. Remember what he said at the far right. He said these guys are a collection of clowns. And he said, this is a fringe element of losers. He said, we got to help crush them. And now Bannon, people close to Bannon said, well, you know, he believed that this interview was off the record. But again, no, he would have said that. He's not a stupid person. Either way, look, if he wanted out or was forced out, the result is the same. He's gone. Now, how this gets taken by the base is another issue. So far, the reaction seems to be fairly negative. But I guess in order to see how this all plays out, we're all going to have to pay attention to Breitbart for the next few days. Because it's going to be very, very entertaining. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.